So here's my sermonette prior to hearing from our speakers today. Well, I was going to do this from the beach, but the battery in our car died, and so I've spent the day trying to get that straightened out. So we'll just do this from our backyard instead. Today's topic is about spiritual transformation through service, and I wanted to share a few personal stories about what that has meant to me before you hear from our speakers about the Growth Through Service program at this fellowship. One story I'd like to share with you is about charitable giving in my own life. When we joined the church in Salt Lake City, Utah, both my wife and I were essentially unchurched and had no idea of pledging, tithing, what it meant to be a member. So it was a new experience for us, and we started out pledging, I would say a relatively small amount, but then we started understanding and got really involved with the church and understood what it meant. And we gave more and more until we got to over 10% of our joint incomes. And as we continue to do that today, and a very unusual thing happened, very counterintuitive. Our society tells us to take care of yourself, keep everything you can, gain as much as you can. But what I found in my life was that as I gave more and more to charity, to the church, I got more and more. I achieved more of a feeling of a purpose, of meaning in life, a calmness, a contentment of knowing that I was making a difference somehow in the world by just giving. So that was transformative and continues to be to this time. The other side of the story that I want to share is kind of like, why did I become a minister? It was nothing I'd ever intended to do. It came to me very late in life. And it started out by sitting in those pews in Salt Lake City. And that church has, to this very day, has an amazing minister in Tom Goldsmith. He is one of the best preachers I've ever heard. I would listen and re-listen to his sermons. I continue to listen to them and to follow his words. He's phenomenal. And I sat in those pews, and my ego said, I can do that. I can do that. I can preach like that. Now, a lot of life choices start off this way, thinking that you can do something. But envy, imitation, competition, and just a personal selfish desire to do something can start a lot of things, but it will not sustain you. All those motives will fail you. And they did me. But I was able to continue on my quest to be a minister, and I began to see the value of service to others, turning from my inside and my own ego and my own selfish needs and desires to helping others. That was incredibly transformative for me, because once I started taking that lens on other people, I saw that a lot of people were suffering. A lot of people were looking for meaning the same way I was, the same way I continue to look. And I was able to not fix it, because you can't fix that sort of stuff, but I was able to see the value in walking, being with people, caring, praying, and deep, deep listening. There is a service to others of deep listening that is of great value to the person to be heard, but also to you personally, to be there and not judge and just be listening. It truly can be incredibly transformative. And so there's a change, there's a spiritual growth when we get outside of ourselves, outside of our own desires and needs. And it can be turned outward to other people, and it can be helpful to them, but it can extremely be beneficial to you in a way that is very counterintuitive. It is really true. The more you give, the more you gain. And that can happen on many levels. But we'll hear now for some people who've been working the Growth Through Service program for years at our fellowship about matching people's loves and passions and interests with what feeds them and can help the fellowship and our community. It's possible. It's possible in many ways. And so I encourage you to listen to their stories and to their explanation, and to personally consider, what would it feel like to be of service to others, and to see and maybe experience what it can mean to you on your spiritual journey. Amen, and blessed be. Now we're going to try something a little different that we've never done before, and I'm going to try and put three people's picture on the screen, and Jenny and Lee's, as we hear from these folks. So let's see if I can do this experiment. It's an option in Zoom called spotlighting. And let's see, spotlight. There's Lee. And now I'll need to find Anne, spotlight, and Jenny. Now, I believe all of you are looking at three people on the screen. So I'm going to let you guys talk and explain the Growth Through Service program.
Thank you, Russ. I am very happy to join with my co-team members, Lee Kavanaugh and Ginny Aragon, to lift up our Growth Through Service program today. Growth Through Service was officially launched at the fellowship 2 years ago. Ben Sandell was an original member of the team, and our webmaster, Bruce Fee, set up the original online infrastructure. Ian Hunter was a member of the team until just recently. So many thanks to the three of them for their contributions to make this possible. The Growth Through Service program was originally developed by a fellow UU church of Delaware County in Pennsylvania. They generously shared their online tools, guidelines, and support so that we could adapt it for our congregation. The philosophical foundation for Growth Through Service is stated thus in our founding statement. Service is a cornerstone of Unitarian Universalist identity and of membership in the fellowship. Through service, we not only play our part in healing our broken world, but we also find the opportunity to grow our own faith and spirituality, to deepen our relationships with others, and to fulfill our mission. In fact, we are truly shifting the culture for how we used to recruit volunteer service using a clipboard and a list of tasks. The Growth Through Service model includes three key components: conversations, service opportunities, and matches. A conversation is a one-on-one meeting to explore what meaningful service means to you and over the course of your life. Meaningful service is different for each person. Our goal is to discern what it means to you. Conversation notes are filed in a private folder on the Growth Through Service website. And these cumulative stories, in my mind, are effectively our fellowship's spiritual biography. Service opportunities are not just descriptions of tasks and responsibilities. Growth Through Service defines how each particular service is key to fulfilling the mission of the fellowship. Service opportunities are defined for every volunteer role that helps our fellowship to function and thrive. There's an ongoing list of these as we build them. It can be found on the Growth Through Service website, and this is accessible on our UU Fellowship webpage under Connection, if you click Connection. The final step in the process is the match. Matching the needs of the fellowship with the service aspirations of our members. In some cases, this has meant even creating new opportunities. Ginny Aragon and I have together conducted 55 conversations to date. I'd like to invite Ginny now to share her thoughts and insights as part of our Growth Through Service team.
Well, good morning, everyone. This is such an interesting day, and there couldn't be really a better topic than this one, I think, given the time that we're in, having just completed the Martin Luther King Jr. Day of Service and the inauguration with this sort of hopeful, connected message. And, this has been a real thought-provoking experience, not just in participating with Growth Through Service, but also in brainstorming doing this aspect of today's service. So for me, this is just some highlights of the things that I've learned. And for those of you who have participated in conversations, the components of that conversation is really in three general areas. Is that your journey, basically your spiritual journey, the things that you've done in terms of service or things that you've contributed both at the fellowship and outside of that, and also any plans that you might have or things that you would like to learn in terms of next steps. So for me, this started out 2 years ago as a real flexible way for me to participate in the fellowship activities, and I really needed that flexibility. And then it sort of took on a life of its own. And it became a real powerful endeavor to practice and develop deep listening, as Russ had mentioned, to really feel and have that connection, really be with people. And this is, as I continue to think about this, because there's one of the things with Growth Through Service, just the richness of the dialogue and the connections with people, is that a lot of the ideas just really continue to linger. And I've really realized that we all have gifts to share, and then how we see them, how we offer them, how we grow them, how we nurture them is all part of this experience. And this is also includes stepping forward with encouragement. In fact, I became interested in and then became a worship associate as a result of my conversation that I had early on. It really something that stuck with me about the language I was using and the things that I was describing as how I wanted to participate in my next iteration with the fellowship. So that has definitely meant something to me. And then in preparing for this particular service, Lee wisely said, so Lee, I'm paraphrasing you, that this became an activity not about what you can do for the fellowship, but also about what you can do, what the fellowship can do for you. And that's about in programs, in connections, and in cultivating gifts and talents. There are oftentimes things that people would talk about that they really, if only we had this, or I'd love to see more of that, or, what would really be something that I've thought about. And this was really the permission-giving space for people to express the preferences of what the fellowship collectively and individually could provide and support. And I think that has become such a real meaningful endeavor. Like I said, I became a worship associate, but there's other things that people would talk about, their passions for social justice or creative expressions, or even manifesting talents and skills and experiences in, say, different leadership roles, and maybe expressing an interest at some point sooner or later to step into a leadership role and give that a try, given the expressions of support and encouragement. So it's like it became a very commonly heard phrase, to hear, I've always wanted to try that. I'd really like to see I'd really like to be part of X. And then this was kind of the entree into potentially those next steps. I found that sitting down with people and hearing their stories was really, really powerful. I think personally stories are very powerful. I'm a real NPR StoryCorps addict, because I think that even if brief, that how people share and what people share is so incredibly impactful. I think our stories reveal us, and it was for me a great privilege to sit down with people and hear about the journeys, what people have been doing to connect with people and to build community, and also their aspirations, hopes, and dreams for future engagement, both in the fellowship and beyond that. So as Anne mentioned, and I think this is really important, and I think what creates that thoughtful aspect of things is that collectively, this is really our trajectory of our fellowship. We are evolving. Certainly the pandemic has created some shifts in all our priorities individually and collectively. And yet this really is an aspirational, very hope-filled legacy of how we want to grow through service, and how that deeply connects us all together. So, Anne?
Thank you, Ginny. I think you so captured so sweetly, so perfectly everything that I was going to add, but I'll just share some wonderful words from a book called The Healing Wisdom of Africa, where the author Malidoma Some states, "There are two things that people crave: the full realization of their innate gifts, and to have these gifts approved, acknowledged, and confirmed." This captures for me the essence of what we're doing with Growth Through Service, to purposefully and intentionally pay attention to each individual in the congregation and ensure that no one's gifts are overlooked or marginalized. And I just have a couple more. Ginny mentioned the worship. We had a number of people state their interest in worship. As a result, we did a worship associates training, and we've continued to include more people in planning and presenting worship. Ray Rayburn, Cindy O'Leary, and Jan Miracle each shared in different ways how they had found deep meaning in their lives, providing emotional, social, or spiritual support for others. The fellowship recruited them to be our very first pastoral care associates. What's one example? I was in conversation with Dee Takamoto. She mentioned, with amongst other things, passions, that she taught a memoir writing group. And out of that came, wow, let's offer that for our fellowship. And that started, it's been going on over a year, and it looks like it has no signs of ending. Every month they meet, every Saturday. Dee's been leading this group, and it's just out of her passion that we now bring this gift and she can share it with the fellowship. So we are focused on inviting, in addition, we are focusing on inviting every new member as they join to have a conversation so that we can help them discover ways to connect, to become involved and deepen their relationships. So Jeannie, just a few more words about where we're going, any ideas for moving forward?
Yeah, certainly. But I think, when Anne was talking about that, just, where we all have opportunities when we're talking with people who are important to us, that it sort of brings up our aspirations and how our past kind of colors what we want to do in the future. And certainly the pandemic has changed a lot of things. We've been a little bit on hold. We've been still meeting regularly, but we've been a little bit on hold in terms of doing conversations, but starting to revisit what that is, and really feel like, I think for the three of us, that this is continuing, that the Growth Through Service as a project is really evolving as this aspect of fellowship life. And we want to keep this active as our service needs and our stories and our individual contributions evolve. So things are still being shaped. And given that, if any of you as a member or friend are interested in having a phone, or at this point, a phone or a Zoom Growth Through Service conversation, please contact Anne or myself, and we can set that up. We've worked to reach out to everybody, but in case we haven't arrived at your doorstep yet, just let us know if you would like to be part of this activity. And, I think we all feel that this is our moment to kind of capture who we are right now and who we are all as individuals, and that those aspirations of how we connect with each other and how we connect with service, and how, bottom line, this is part of how that we grow as individuals and we grow as a fellowship through these service opportunities. So that's it.
Okay. If we were meeting in person, there would be a round of applause, I'm sure. So thank you so much.